If you are dealing with a narcissist, you're dealing with gaslighting, because they all do it, all different forms of narcissist, no matter what kind you're dealing with, whether it's the malignant form, the grandiose form, or the covert form, they all engage in gaslighting, and especially the covert form. And if you're dealing with a covert narcissist, or you suspect that you may be, you're definitely going to want to check out my videos on covert narcissism in relationships and the covert passive aggressive narcissist. And I will drop a link to those videos below. So I'm going to give you a definition of gaslighting, and then I'm going to give you some examples of what it looks like in regular relationships in general, and then also what it looks like when you are either divorcing a narcissist, breaking up with a narcissist, or dissolving any kind of a relationship with a narcissist, even if it's a business partnership or a friendship, something like that, okay? Okay, so what gaslighting is, it's a form of psychological manipulation and abuse that is deliberately designed to try to make you think that you're crazy. And more importantly, from the narcissist or sociopath's perspective, it is designed for them to self-preserve and maintain control over you or whoever their victim is. The term gaslighting actually came from a play and then a movie from the 1940s where the husband, and it was actually called Gaslight, I believe, and the husband was intentionally trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. So what he would do is he would mess with the gas lights in the house. He would blow them out or turn them down or something like that. And she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, "No, wasn't lit. So obviously, you must be crazy." And I think she did eventually even end up going crazy. And so that is the term that we now use for people who inflict psychological abuse on another person in order to try to gain control over them and make them think that they're crazy. And as I said, it's especially a favorite tactic of covert narcissists because it's a really under the radar type of abuse. It's not overt abuse. It's not physical abuse. It's not it's not outwardly calling someone a horrible name. It's not calling them stupid. It's much more subtle. It's much more lethal in a lot of ways, much more toxic, very, very stealth and insidious. And because it's so stealth, because it's so toxic, because it's so insidious, it can actually cause the victim to start feeling anxiety, depression. You do start feeling like you're going insane. It invokes feelings of self-esteem problems, worthlessness. It's a really, you really feel traumatized. It literally sucks the life out of you. I mean, you've heard narcissists be referred to as energy vampires. They literally drain the life out of you. And, it can cause forms of PTSD. It is a trauma. And it can be very difficult to get over if you've been subjected to it for years at a time. So one form of gaslighting is lying. And how it will look is they'll lie. If you ask them if they did something, they'll lie and say that they did it. And then when you catch them saying that they didn't, or finding out that they didn't do what they said they were going to do, then they manipulate it in some way so that you confuse the conversation, or so that it didn't happen the way you thought it was, or something like that. So they just out and out lie about it. And then when you catch them in the lie, they go to manipulate the truth about it. So how that might look in a divorce is that they said that they were going to deposit money in a certain bank account. So you go and you keep checking the bank account because they said they took care of it, and you will keep not seeing the money in the bank account. And so days go by and you say, you said that you put the money in the bank account, it's not there. Well, then they come back and they'll say, "Oh, I never said that I was going to put the money in the bank account. What I said was that I was going to pay the bills." and you say, no, no, I have this email that says, I asked you if you put the money in the bank account and you said you took care of it. And then they say, well, what I meant was that I would take care of the bills, that I'll just pay them directly. And so you misunderstood what I was going to say. And then of course they don't even pay the bills directly. So, you know, it's this game that goes on with you where you're just, you know, on constant pins and needles wondering what's going on. And it's their way of maintaining control over you and also making you think that you're crazy. So another form of this charming thing is manipulation. And so how this looks is that you think that you had a conversation about something and how it, you know, how maybe it's about scheduling, or maybe you decided that you weren't going to do something on a particular weekend, or maybe you decided that you were going to do something together, and suddenly that's changed, and they've manipulated how that was going to look as well. So how that might look in a divorce or a breakup situation is that they'll come to you and they'll say, here are 3 choices for how we can settle and resolve our differences and our issues. And you say, okay, I pick number 2. And then they come back and you think, finally, I'm just going to give them what they want. I can live with number 2. And you go through all of the machinations of figuring out if this is the right one. And okay, I guess I can live with that. And all right, I'll pick number 2, thinking this is finally going to be over. And then you go back and you pick number 2. And then they come back and they say, well, we can't do number 2 anymore, because number 2 only was on the table if you were going to do X, Y, and Z, and they make something up that of course never was part of the conversation. And now suddenly the whole deal has blown up because it was an illusory promise to begin with. It was a deal that was never going to be had, because the truth is they don't want to settle the case. They want to make your life as miserable as possible. I mean, they want to settle, they want to get as much as they possibly can. They do want to win, but they want to win in a way that is a manipulation win. It's not like a reasonable person conversation. Okay, and then the third thing is deflecting or blame shifting. And how this looks is that if you call them out on their behavior and you say, aha, like this is definitely something that you didn't do. You said you were going to send this email on this day and you didn't do it. Well, then they deflect, they blame shift, or you know, let's say you call them out on something in the middle of a conversation, you know, you were irresponsible. Well, they'll turn around and they'll say, I don't like your tone. I don't like the way you said that. Or you're always irresponsible because blah, blah, blah. So they deflect and blame shift. So in a divorce, it might look like this. You guys have an agreement to use a co-parenting app for all of your communications for the child. Okay, so, and then out of the blue, you get a message in the co-parenting app that says, thank you so much for agreeing to change weekends with me and give me, you know, Johnny on your parenting time next weekend. And you immediately write back and you say, as you know, we were supposed to use our co-parenting app for all conversations around changing the schedule. And you didn't ask me about this, and this conversation never took place. And then the next thing you're going to hear is, oh, really? Really? You're so petty that we have to use an app? Really? I mean, I guess if you're just that petty and you're that immature that you can't just have a regular conversation, that we have to use the app for everything, and suddenly it becomes your fault. If you are so ready to be done with these games, give me an I'm ready in the comments. Okay, so here are a couple of things that you can do about gaslighting. Remember, you're not going to stop them from gaslighting, but what you can do is shut them down in some way so that it doesn't affect you. So my suggestions are ways that you can protect yourself from what they're going to continue to do. Think of the narcissist as the wild animal. They will never be caged. They will never be tamed. Well, they can be caged, but that's a whole other conversation. That's more around strategy and leverage, and that's another whole conversation, but they will never be tamed. And so you just have to assume that they're going to be whoever they are. So the first thing that you can do is realize what's happening. Once you start to take a step back and you can start observing them as if they are a 2-year-old having a tantrum on the floor and say, oh, well, there they go again, being their narky selves, that's the first step in not bringing this into yourself and starting to get over those feelings of anxiety and all of that, when you can really start seeing them for who they are. So that's number one, is just realize what's happening and take a step back. Okay, so number two is not to take anything personally that they do. So number one, you just start taking a step back and you're just observing them. Number two is realizing that they are just all about self-preservation. When you realize that everything a narcissist does is just really about them and has nothing to do with you, because they can't see past themselves, that nothing is about you. So you can't ever take anything they do personally. It's always about themselves. They don't have the ability to have any empathy. They lack total empathy for anyone except themselves. So remember, they have no internal sense of value. They're trying to grab everything they can from the external. So this whole thing of gaslighting you is self-preservation and trying to control you and control their environment. So number two is don't take it personally. Okay, and number three is to connect with other people who have been targets or victims, survivors and thrivers of narcissistic abuse, because these are your people. These are the people who understand where you've been and where you're going and what you need to do to heal yourself. I have a private Facebook group. It's totally free. It's called Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, and I will drop a link to that below. If you want to connect with other people who are dealing with the same things that you are, go ahead and ask to join that Facebook group, and there you'll be able to connect with other people who can support you online. Number four is to create hard and fast boundaries. Just decide, like, this is how much communication I'm going to have with this person, or this is what the communication is going to look like. And just, when you recognize the signs of what they're doing and that they're lying, just don't allow them to get away with it. Don't allow that to continue to happen. You've noticed it, you've decided not to take it personally. So now you're just going to just keep it over here, away from you. Number five is seek professional assistance. If you can't afford a therapist or you don't have insurance, maybe there's a clergy member or somebody that you can talk to, or some kind of support group, in your community. If you want to talk to somebody who has more training around helping people through trauma and dealing with how to get over the abuse and all of the feelings of anxiety that you probably have as a result of dealing with this for years. And finally, the last one, number six, is if you can, I always advocate to start planning your exit from the relationship. If you can. I obviously understand if you have children together, or there's a financial constraint, or there's other reasons why you feel like it's best for you to stay in the relationship right now, then that's what you need to do. But, eventually, I would suggest that you try to shut down everything with that narcissist. There's never a good way to try to have a relationship or be in relationship with the narcissist. They just aren't capable of doing.
Okay, so let's talk about gaslighting. What is gaslighting anyway? Well, gaslighting is something that all narcissists use. It is a really disgusting way of getting someone to just completely doubt their reality. It's a way to destabilize people, especially in negotiating. And that's what I talk about. That's what I teach people how to do. I've seen people be destabilized in negotiating. What happens is they just start to question their own mind. So the way I've seen it used in a number of different ways, but basically it's, we talked about that. Don't you remember? I don't remember talking about that. Or they take like threads of things and they say that happened this way or that way, and it didn't really quite happen that way or this way. And they kind of deconstructed and reconstructed it in a different way. And so you just start to question your own mind. And it actually came from a movie and then also a play from like the 30s or 40s, and was actually called Gaslight. And the husband was trying to get the wife to think that she was crazy. So he would blow out these gas lights and she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, "No, no, it wasn't." That's how that term actually came about. Because he was actually trying to think she was crazy. So I've actually had it happen to me a number of times in various relationships with covert narcissists. My actual least favorite, because I've had to deal with covert narcissists myself. So what are the hidden signs of gaslighting? Well, so what they will do is they'll say something like, "Oh my goodness, you're so sensitive. You're so overly dramatic." Like basically just trying to make somebody feel like they have no right to feel that way. And they kind of just sort of like weave it in a way that just sort of like, "Oh, where did that come from?" It is a way of gaslighting. It's just sort of like makes you sort of question like, "Oh, where did that come from?" It's like a little poke and it's a little way to just sort of like make somebody feel like they have no right to feel that way. Covert, it's a really little way of something that covert narcissists definitely use. And with covert narcissists, they always have this way of like using plausible deniabilities so that if anybody ever questions it, it's like, it just seems like, "What? I didn't say anything. It doesn't seem that bad. It doesn't seem, oh, they seem so nice." Nothing ever seems out of place. No hair ever seems out of place. Nothing ever seems bad. But the person themselves are kind of questioning what's going on. Another one is like projection and deflection. Like you bring something up and then they just sort of change the subject. And it's like all of a sudden you're not talking about what you wanted to talk about. And so it's a way of sort of putting that person down and letting them know that they don't matter to you, but you just didn't really realize what happened. Or they kind of question the way you brought something up or the tone of the way you brought something up. And so it's a constant sort of way of sort of belittling you. So you never really get to talking about what you wanted to talk about. Your feelings don't matter, or whatever it is that you wanted to bring up never gets talked about. But it's just constantly shifted. But it's because of the way you brought it up, when you brought it up, how you brought it up. It's just constantly projected off into something else, or we'll talk about it later. That's a way of sort of gaslighting you as well. And by the way, I have a whole video on how to gaslight the narcissist, how to flip that script, and you can definitely check that video out if you'd like. And if you are so ready to turn the tables on narcissists, give me a turn the tables in the comments below. I know you are so ready to turn the tables. And then, another way is like, "This never happened," or "That never happened." They twist the way things happened. They want to record your conversations, but then they accuse you of being petty, which is very interesting. It's just like you constantly feel like you need to defend yourself when you're dealing with them. And, here's the thing. Narcissists, they all engage in gaslighting. That is just something that happens with narcissists. It is something that they all do. They just can't help themselves. It is part of their DNA. There's just something off. You just feel it when you are dealing with them, that sort of thing in your chest, or that pit in your gut. It's just always happening. And they do come from this premise that all people are manipulative. That's just how they feel all the time. They feel like they're protecting themselves from being manipulated. Because they feel that all people are manipulative. I mean, they come from this place of survival. That's how they are in the world. It's kind of a sad thing. It is, but you can't save them. I know, I see you empaths out there. I know you think that you can, but you can't. Just don't think that you can. Just protect yourself. Do what you need to do to protect yourself. Okay, so now we are going to be talking about 21 gaslighting phrases and 10 gaslighting techniques. This is a favorite of all kinds of narcissists. Whether you are dealing with a covert narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, or a malignant narcissist, all narcissists use gaslighting techniques. What is gaslighting? First of all, let's define gaslighting before we even get into this. Gaslighting is when narcissists are trying to make you think that you're crazy. I think that it's easiest to actually talk about where the term gaslight even came from, because I think that makes it kind of easiest to figure out. And it actually came from an old play, which it was also a movie, where the husband was trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. And what he would do, he would blow out these gas lights, and the wife would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, "No, no, it wasn't." She would say, "I'm pretty sure that was just lit." And he would say, "No." And that's how he would actually make her question her own mind. And that's what gaslighting is. That's where the term came from. It's to make you question your own mind. So it's basically things that you think you're seeing or things that you think you're hearing or whatever. They make you question your own sense of reality. So it happens in many different forms and many different formats, but that's where it comes up. So, number one, for example, is "I never said that." I never said that. So, literally, they will say things like, "We'll pay you back on the rent that I borrowed from you, on this money. I will borrow money from you, and then, I'll pay you back." Then you go to ask them for the money back, and they'll say, "I never said that. I never said that I was going to pay you back, or I never said that I was going to pay you back in this way or on those terms, whatever. I never said that." You're over there going, "You definitely did. You definitely said that you were going to pay me back. You definitely said you were going to pay me back this weekend, or you definitely said you were going to come this weekend." You know that a certain conversation took place, and they'll say, "I never said that." You know that it happened in a certain way, and they'll completely just deny it. And they'll even accuse you of being the crazy one, that, that never took place in that way. And when these kinds of things happen a lot over time, then you really start to question your own mind, right? And it's used to control you, it's used to destabilize you. And when you go to negotiate, especially after you've been with this person for a really long time, and now you're trying to go through the dissolution of a marriage or a dissolution of a partnership or any kind of a negotiation, maybe it's your boss or, any kind of business situation, it's difficult because you're in this mental fog or cognitive dissonance. It's even a physical thing, it can cause autoimmune disorders and all kinds of issues. And you're really at a disadvantage sometimes because of that. So that's number one. I never said that. Number two is "You're too sensitive." So, they might say something that's just really, really offensive, and they know that it's offensive. They'll just say, "You're too sensitive." So, maybe they'll say something about your weight, or maybe they'll say something about your brain or how you are with numbers or your driving or anything. And, when you take offense to it, they'll say, "You're too sensitive." And by the way, it's not the same on the other side, right? Because you know how narcissists are. they're so easily slighted at the wind blowing. I mean, you can have say something and they'll take offense at your tone, at your eyes, at nothing. I mean, they'll say, I can't speak to you because you have raised your voice. You interrupted me. They'll say you interrupted me when you didn't even interrupt, so, but they'll accuse you of being too sensitive even when you weren't sensitive, right? So that's number two. Number three is they'll say, it sounds like you don't really know what you want or what you need right now. They accuse you of these things because you do know what you want or you do know what you need, but they do these kinds of things because, or they say these kinds of things because they don't want to get into a conversation where you are asking for something or you are needing something. They don't want to have to address your wants. They don't want to have to address your needs. So they actually turn things around to make it so that they make it seem like you're crazy or you're delusional. It's a way of shifting the conversation away from having to address anything about you because they most certainly do not want to have any kind of deep conversations or conversations where they're going to have to be on the hook for having to be there and be available for you. So that's why they'll say things like, you don't really know what you want. You don't really know what you need. They know that you know exactly what you want or what you need. They just don't want to have to provide it to you. Okay. So that's number three. Number four is they'll make a statement and then deny having made that statement. And if they'll do that in the middle of the same conversation. They'll say something and be having a fight with you. And in the middle of that same conversation, deny that they said something. It's extremely frustrating because you can say you literally just said something and then they'll say I didn't just say that, or they'll accuse you of saying something that you didn't say. Oh, you just called me a loser. I never said that, and you can say, I never said that. And oh, I just literally heard you say that. You get into these ridiculous conversations with them, but they say that, right? And they'll literally get into these conversations with you, or they'll deny proof of something even if you have proof of its existence. Like you can say you said this and you can show them a text message that they said something and they'll literally say I didn't say that. I've had this conversation with courts, where I've had a narcissistic attorney on the other side, and I've had the transcript where they literally said something in court and they've said they didn't say it. It's absolutely insanity, but they will do that. So that's number four. Number five is don't be so dramatic. It doesn't mean anything. Don't be so dramatic. It doesn't mean anything. This is where you might see a text message that it looks definitely really suspicious, like miss you, or there's, hearts and, something that definitely looks inappropriate or something like that. Or you might see photographs or something that looks inappropriate or behavior that looks inappropriate where they're, having a relationship with somebody else that they shouldn't be, anything like that. Don't be so dramatic. It doesn't mean anything. I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. You're making too much of this, things like that. So that's number five. Number six is you're just imagining things just go to sleep. We'll talk about it in the morning. They don't want to have a conversation right now, so they push it off because they think that if they push it off, you'll forget about it. It's a conversation that won't have to happen. So, just go to bed. You'll have a clear head later and, just pat you on the head. You're being over dramatic. Just go to sleep, go to bed. We'll talk about it later, that kind of thing. So that's number six, go take a breath, go meditate, take a few days, that sort of thing. Like, you're just making too much of it. Go take some time because you're just making so much of this that you probably just need to take some time. So that's number six. And number seven, it's just a joke, or they'll just add ha to the end of something. They'll just say something that's just completely mean, absolutely awful. And then they'll just be like, oh, ha, I know somebody who was like, that was like their signature. They'll say there's something that was absolutely awful and then just add ha to the end of it, which is so horrible. Like, they think that was like their get out of jail free card, right? Just adding ha to the end of things. Number eight is you're the problem, not me. So, they don't ever want to think that they're the ones that have the problem. Number nine is I don't like when you brought this up or how you brought this up. That is such a classic one. It's that project and deflect, kind of, diversion thing. It's just never a good time. Why did you bring that up now? Why do you bring that up now? And, or I don't like how you brought that up. Your tone was bad. You interrupted me. It's a bad time. It's a diversion thing to put it back on the other person, because then we don't have to actually talk about it. So that's the whole thing. You bring up these suspicious text messages or whatever. It's like, why are you bringing that up now? Or what? Now I don't like the way your tone is. Now you're interrupting me. Now it's too loud. Or now it's too hot in the room or whatever it is. It's all about you. Okay. That's number nine. Number 10 is okay, let's just forget about all of this and let's just think about our future. Let's just start over. We've got so many great things ahead of us. We can just think about how many wonderful things. Why are we being negative here? Let's just think about the positive future. It doesn't help us to dwell about the past. Okay. Let's just forget about all of this and start over. Okay. So that's number 10. Number 11 is I'm not angry. They will literally rip and tear into you. You're afraid for your life. And then you ask them, why are you so angry? And then they'll say, I'm not angry. And you're literally like shaking and they'll say, I'm not angry. I mean, it's almost scary sometimes, So that's number 11. Number 12 is this is why no one likes you. This is one of those, to make you think it's all about you. You're the one that has the problem. No one else, to isolate you, to make you think you're the one who has the problem, not them. So this is why no one likes you. And this is one of the worst ones because normally you also have your own core wounds. And so it really speaks to that and it makes it so much worse. So this is why no one likes you. So that's number 12. Number 13 is can't you take a joke? Can't you take a joke? Come on. Kind of comes back to that ha thing. So that's number 13. And number 14 is let's forget about all of this. That's that future faking thing again. And number 15 is You're reading way too much into this. It's again your fault. Number 16 is stop being so insecure. You're the one being so insecure. Number 17 is I'm sorry you feel that way. I could do a whole video on faux apologies, which I have done, which you can definitely check out my other videos on narcissists. So, faux apologies. Do narcissists really apologize? I wonder. So you can check that out, those other videos on that. And number 18 is, well, excuse me for trying to be wonderful to you. There's a guilt apology. That's what I call those guilt apologies. This is all part of that manipulation ship that you're in. Remember, everything a narcissist does is a manipulation. Everything they do, even when they love bomb you, it's a manipulation. Okay. And number 19, I guess I'm just a horrible person. I guess I'm just horrible. This is when they try to flip things around on themselves. When you're asking for something, when you're trying to get them to feel anything about you, it's, I guess I'm just horrible. They turn it on themselves to be a victim. And then number 20, no one else loves you like I do. Again, trying to isolate you, trying to make you think that no one else loves you, only they do, right? Because they're afraid to be abandoned. Remember, narcissists are way more afraid of you than you are of them. Their biggest fear is that you're going to abandon them or expose them, which goes back to number 21. Number 21 is everyone else thinks and no one else thinks. So they have this whole thing, and I have a whole video on narcissist favorite catchphrases, which you can definitely check out, which they say these things all the time. Everyone else thinks this and no one else thinks that. Things that they say to isolate you, to make you think that you're the one who's crazy, not okay. And I want you to put this in the comments right now. It's not okay, these things that they're doing, because they're trying to make you think that you're the one that's crazy. You're not. It's not you, it's them, which is why I want to go into the 10 gaslighting techniques that narcissists use right now. Number one is invalidating your feelings, invalidating your feelings so that you think that you're, not so sensitive. Don't be so sensitive, right? Invalidating your feelings. Number two, making you think that you had conversations that didn't take place. We talked about that and you agreed, don't you remember? You didn't have that conversation. If you knew you didn't have that conversation, stand up, say, we didn't have that conversation. It's okay. You can say that. Number three, they take bits and pieces of conversations and then redesign them into new truths. So they fashion like parts of conversation and then say, oh, we talked about parts of that, and then they kind of make that into new truths, right? And that's not okay either. Number four is they isolate you by using those absolutes. Remember, everyone else and no one else. Not okay. Not okay. Remember, put that in the comments. Not okay. Number five, isolating you by making you think that you're not lovable. I'm the only one who truly loves you. Your family doesn't really love you. Your friends don't really. Therefore, no one else would ever love you either. That's not true. And that's why you really do need a support system. That's why you really do. And that's why you really do need phrases for disarming narcissists, which I have for you. You can get it disarmthenarc.com. Make sure you go to disarmthenarc.com, grab my free phrases for disarming narcissists. And you need a support system, by the way. So I have that too, which is Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. That's my free private Facebook group. Make sure you join that too. Okay. And I also have a sponsor on this channel, which is BetterHelp, which you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung and get the help and support that you need. We receive commissions when you sign up with them. It does not cost you any extra. We just want you to have access to the help and support that you need. So, number 6 is making conversations and then making themselves out to be the victim of those conversations. Like, I guess I'm just horrible, reversing that conversation, right? When you're trying to get them to see your side or have any feelings about you at all. I'm just the terrible one, reversing that. That's not okay either. Number 7 is interrupting conversations so that you can never get to the point of what it is that you're trying to say. Never the right time. It's too loud, etc. So that's number 7. And then number 8 is never taking responsibility by, wanting to take to just move on, future fake you, move right to the new thing and just forgetting about the past. That also invalidates your feelings and doesn't give you a chance to heal and feel acknowledged and feel valued and show them that you matter, right? That's also a form of gaslighting, and that is not okay. So that's number 8. Number 9 is making you think you're crazy by saying things like, I'm not angry, when they're clearly angry. You're imagining things, you're reading too much into things. That's also a form of making you think you're crazy, and it causes this cognitive dissonance and this brain fog. Okay, so that's number 9. And number 10 is taking a lot of the focus off of what's going on with what they did by making a lot of noise around your behavior, blowing things up around your behavior and accusing you of all kinds of things when you didn't do anything. But they make a lot of noise around what you're doing because they want to take the focus off of themselves. So that's number 10. All right. So those are 10 techniques, gaslighting techniques that narcissists use to also make you think that you're crazy, and 21 gaslighting phrases that narcissists use as well. So this was a long video to give you a lot of information around gaslighting, but I think it's really, really helpful and really, really useful because it's such a huge, powerful way that narcissists use to really control you and really try to destabilize you and take that mental focus for away from you and take that power away from you. So I think that this was a really, really good video for you, and I hope that it helps you so that you can start to take your own power back and start to feel your own sense of control. Because remember, step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. But remember, you can start to shift that dynamic. You can start to turn it all around. Let's talk about that narcissist's most dangerous lie. They lie about everything, right? Narcissists lie as a way of life. They lie about all kinds of stuff, including things that they don't need to lie about, which is kind of baffling to me. And they even lie about things that are readily verifiable, which is also kind of baffling to me. And if you want to know more about specifically about
narcissist lies, I would highly recommend that you check out my video called Narcissist's Most Common Lies. And I actually do have an accompanying podcast to that too. So for those of you who like to get your information in different kinds of mediums, I do have a podcast. It's on every single outlet where you can find podcasts, and it's called Negotiate Your Best Life. And you can check out that show on Narcissist's Most Common Lies there too. But going back to what the most dangerous lie is, it is not what you think. It's not like, what are they saying that's so dangerous? It's more how it lands for you. And that's why it's so dangerous. And that is the lie that you desperately want to believe. And the reason why that is so dangerous is because they are constantly packaging their lies in a way that you will believe, that you want to believe, that might be plausible, that seems real, that allows you to ignore those red flags that may be going up in your head. And if you want to know more about why people ignore narcissist red flags, I highly recommend you check out my video on that. Anyway, you will be getting these lies, and you're realizing something is off, and you see something, maybe you see a text message come through that doesn't seem right, and you confront them on it. And they have some plausible explanation for it. Or it might not even be all that plausible. But you're just like, you know what? I want to believe this person. I want to believe that my whole life is not a lie. I want to believe that this person actually loves me. I want to believe that I'm not in business with a shark, with somebody who is awful. I mean, they don't seem terrible all the time. Sometimes they seem good. And so you end up processing something in a way that ends up, maybe they get away with their lie because you want to believe it so desperately. And that can happen in a number of different ways. So one of the ways that they package their lies so that you will believe it, which becomes dangerous for you, is something called future faking. And what happens there is that they say, yeah, you know what, this happened, but in the future, here's what life is going to look like. So if it's in business, I'm going to start participating. I'm going to generate all these sales. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm taking the lead on this particular effort, whatever it is. And then they don't ever do it. And that's future faking. But in that moment, you really, really want to believe it. Same thing if it's in a romantic relationship. You get that text message, or you see that thing happen, or they didn't show up for something, or they didn't do something they were supposed to. They didn't get you the birthday gift they were supposed to. They didn't take care of your kids the way they were supposed to, or blew off your mother, or whatever it is. And you call them out on it, and there you go having a conversation, which is, that's never going to happen again. Let's forget about the past. Let's just think about the future. Let's just take it from here forward, because from now on, you are going to feel appreciated. You will get everything you deserve. You are the best at everything. And whatever comes out of their mouth that they have to say in that moment, for you to believe them. And, for a variety of reasons, sometimes you just want to believe them. So you do. And so more time goes by. And now you're investing more of your life and more of your time and more of your energy into this person. And the more you invest, the more you want it to work, the more you want to believe the lies. And if you just think that they are such liars, give me a liars in the comments. Okay, so the next reason why they the way they package their lies is through gaslighting. And gaslighting is something that they use to try to make you think that you're crazy. And if you want to know more about gaslighting, check out my video on narcissists' favorite gaslighting techniques. But they use gaslighting to try to make you think that you're crazy. So, and I've mentioned this before, but I haven't mentioned it in a while, so I'll mention it again for those of you who don't know. It actually comes from this old movie called Gaslight, and I think it was even a play before that, and then it became a movie, and it was like from the 30s or 40s, where the husband was trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. So he would blow out these gas lights throughout the house, and she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, "No, it wasn't." And she would then, he was hoping that she would lose her mind. And that's what happens with narcissists. They start to gaslight you. They start to say things that are different than what was said before, or to try to make you believe that something happened that didn't happen, or something did happen that didn't happen, and they just rewrite reality. So, I had a client one time who the ex-wife, the narcissistic ex-wife, threatened to call the authorities on him if he picked up the child at a certain time or something, a time that he was entitled to pick up the child. But she said, "If you do, I'm calling the authorities." So he emails her back and says, "I really don't appreciate you threatening to call the cops on me, and this is exactly why I want this, this, and this done. And I want you to sign this agreement." Well, now she doesn't want to sign this agreement. She doesn't want to do these other things that he wants her to do. So she turns around to try to use it against him in a way and say, "Hey, I never said I was going to call the cops. I said I was going to call the authorities," which is something different. And you know darn well that when she said, "I'm calling the authorities," she meant the cops. But there's a perfect opportunity for her, or perfect example of gaslighting. So now she's saying, "That's not what I meant." And so, he's supposed to go, "Oh, what did you mean? I wasn't that? Okay." And, and then now you're having a conversation about that. A perfect example of gaslighting. But there's a type of lie. Gaslighting is a type of lie that you might want to believe, where they're saying now something different than what they said before, but you want to believe it because you don't want to believe that you are so wrong. I mean, a lot of times we want to believe it because we don't want to have to admit that we've been in a relationship with someone who is so horrible to us, who's so untrustworthy, who's so dishonest. We don't want to have to believe that ourselves. We don't want to have to think, "Oh my gosh, how could I have been so stupid," or whatever. But just remember that narcissists are master manipulators. They're very good at reading people. They're very good at figuring out what it is that you want in the beginning. So you can't beat yourself up over that. So that's the most dangerous lie. The most dangerous lie is the one that you want to believe. And when you were getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist in any situation, business or personal or divorce or whatever, there is also an example of a dangerous lie, because you might want to believe that they sincerely want to negotiate with you, that they sincerely want to settle the case, that they sincerely want to make it right and have it be something that's amicable, when they don't actually. When they are actually behind your back, stabbing your back, doing things to you, and then they say they're not. You want to believe that. And that's where it can be very, very dangerous as well. Let's talk about gaslighting. One of the narcissist's favorite little go-to bag of tricks. And it's almost like they need to do it. They're like compelled. It's like a way of life for them. So gaslighting is a form of manipulation. It's a psychological form of manipulation to try to get control over you and try to make you think that you are crazy. And they use it in a lot of different ways, and especially in negotiating. When they are dealing with somebody during a discard phase, it really comes up quite a lot. So I have seen it a lot in my law practice. And so if you are negotiating with a narcissist in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in a divorce, a business partnership, or maybe it's even a family member, a neighbor, or somebody who used to be your friend, then you will see these phrases and these signs of gaslighting coming up in some shape or form, because they're actually pretty predictable. Even though narcissists are like really heinous to deal with, they're actually fairly predictable as far as their personality type. They kind of all act the same. You see it, a lot of people that are in my private Facebook group are talking about it thinking, wow, do they have all the same playbook? I've heard people say that. It's amazing. It's like we're talking about the same person. If you want to know more about the private Facebook group and you want to join us, it's called Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. But they have, favorite gaslighting phrases that they use and also tactics that they use. And if you want to know more about gaslighting tactics, you should check out my video on gaslighting tactics, and we'll make sure we drop a link to that below. But on this video, we're going to focus mostly on the types of phrases that they use in order to gaslight you. So if you hear any of these phrases, you're going to know, okay, this person is trying to gaslight me. And if you are the target of gaslighting, you're probably starting to feel anxious, feel traumatized, feel like you're going crazy, like you can't think straight. You start to lose confidence in yourself. You start to think, you just can't do anything right. It spills over into other areas of your life, not just in dealing with that narcissist, but other areas of your life as well. You don't have the confidence to negotiate or do anything that you want to try to do. I mean, it spills over even into other relationships, your personal life, your business life, everything. You just are so anxious. You can't think straight. You feel powerless, paralyzed sometimes, and that's what the result is of constant gaslighting, because that's what they want. They want you to feel that way. They're manipulating you. Okay, so the first phrase that they use is, you're crazy and need help. So when you try to bring things up, you try to point something out about the narcissist, you try to say, what you did was wrong. Especially covert narcissists, they do these little passive-aggressive things, and constantly make you feel like you're the one who's crazy when you try to bring it up. And they sometimes the things that they do are so small, so little. I've said this example before, but there was an example of a husband who, used to stop at Starbucks all the time, and he would get out of the car and ask the wife if she wanted anything, and then he would get back in the car and have only his coffee and not what she had asked for, and she'd say, oh, what happened to mine? Oh, sorry, I forgot. And, he would just drive away. And, that's the kind of thing, like if you bring it up, it's like, oh, you're just so crazy. It was inadvertent. I didn't mean it. And sometimes these things are so small that, it's like you think to yourself, well, am I going to blow up a marriage over this? Or if I tell people, do they think I'm sounding petty? But it's this constant little drip, drip, drip on your forehead, where, you just feel like you're going insane. Or I've heard the term death by 1,000 cuts. That's another way that you can describe it. It's just like little by little, you're just being cut to pieces. So that's the first one. You're crazy and you need help. So nice, very charming, very charming. The second one is you're just insecure and jealous. So, this is the one where you found texts on the phone with somebody that they work with and it seems kind of flirtatious. Or, you see pictures where someone else is wearing his jacket, or, they seem to be a little too chummy at work and maybe they're talking about stuff that they shouldn't. You're just starting to see these little signs of things that don't seem right. They don't add up. And, you're just insecure and jealous. I actually had a client one time who had followed her husband to a hotel with this other woman. She actually saw them go into the hotel. She even had the credit card receipt that showed that they had gotten a room at the hotel. They were in there for like an hour, and then they came out of the hotel room, and she told me that he said nothing happened in the hotel. They just talked. So, and she was like, wanting to know if she should believe him. And I don't have any judgment about that, because you know what? She had probably lived with such gaslighting for so many years that she really didn't know what to believe anymore, even if it's so obvious to the rest of the world. Because, he told her, you're crazy, you're jealous, you're overreacting. And so she was questioning whether or not she really was, because that's gaslighting. It makes you question your own sanity. The next one is, it was just a joke. So they say something like super mean, like, oh, you walk really funny, or the way you chew is weird, or something like that. Oh, I was just joking. It was just, can't you just take a joke? You're so serious. What's wrong with you? When they say like hurtful things, oh, that was really supposed to be just funny. You can't take a joke? Oh, obviously, you're just super stiff, and there's something wrong with you. And if you are so ready to fight back against that narcissist gaslighting, give me a fight back in the comments. The next one is, I never said or did that. I never said that. I never did that, even though they clearly said or did that. Even if you have proof, even if you have emails, whatever it is, they just changed that. I never said that exactly. I had a client one time who his soon-to-be ex-wife said that, if he didn't do what she said that she wanted him to do, that she was going to contact the authorities. And he wrote back and said something like, there's no reason to threaten that you're going to call the cops. And she wrote back and said, I never said I was calling the cops. I said I would contact the authorities. And so clearly, that's just like changing it. I never said that, even though that's exactly what she said. And she knew that that's what she wanted him to think that she meant. And so she just changed it. So that's a really, really good example of gaslighting. Last one is my favorite, because, when you're dealing with them and negotiating, it's, something you see all the time, which is moving the goalposts. And you see that in negotiation, where they constantly, you're trying to resolve the issue, and, you finally agree to whatever it is that they are offering. And now all of a sudden, that's no longer on the table. You have to go and renegotiate it again, and they make it your fault that the deal has changed.
So let's talk about this gaslighting thing. So narcissists love to use gaslighting. It is a way to make you feel like you're crazy. It is a word that stems from an old movie, which was also apparently a show back in the 30s. And what the premise was is there was a husband who was trying to make the wife feel like she was crazy. So he would blow out these gas lights, and she would say, wasn't that just lit? And he would say, no, it wasn't. So that's what he did. Apparently in the end, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it, which I haven't even seen it myself, but apparently he ends up being onto him, which is going to be the outcome for you, whether you're dealing with them in a personal situation or divorce or whatever your situation is. Maybe it's a probate situation, maybe it's a business partner, maybe it's future clients or people that you're having to deal with in any aspect of your life. It really doesn't matter because you're going to see gaslighting if you're dealing with a narcissist. It's one of the things that they love to do. And so let's talk about gaslighting. So gaslighting, as I mentioned, is a way to make you think that you're crazy. There are many different ways that they use gaslighting. They straight up just lie to your face. They manipulate reality. They project, they deflect, they use other people as their scapegoats, or they just, try to coerce you and pressure you. However, they're using it, it's basically all the same. And they use it if they're covert, they use it if they're overt. It doesn't really matter what kind of narcissist you are looking at. By the way, if you want to know more about the covert passive aggressive narcissist, I have a whole video on that special type of person. Yeah, I had to deal with a couple of them in my own personal life, not as a husband, but people close enough to help me see the light as to what they actually look like, causing lots of drama, trauma, and chaos in my own life. And I know how horrible it is. And this is why I'm on a mission over here. I have a personal crusade, as I'm pretty sure the only lawyer on the planet who actually has a way to negotiate with narcissists. And that's why I have such a personal mission on this. Anyway, let's talk about those 8 gaslighting phrases, shall we? All right. So, number 1 is we discussed that and you agreed. Like they say that they've planned something for the weekend. It happens to be your anniversary weekend and they're going away with the boys. And you're like, you're going away on our anniversary? And he says, yeah, we are. And I already told you that. And you agreed to that. And you're like, I never heard about this trip ever. But that's the kind of thing that they do. We discussed that and you agreed. So that's number 1. Number 2 is adding "ha" or "can't you take a joke" to the end of a cruel sentence. Oh, you're just overly sensitive. Oh, can't you just take a joke? Adding "ha" to the end of a sentence does not make it funny, and it doesn't make it less punchy or hurtful or cruel, which they actually know, by the way, but they think that they're adding "ha" to it so that they get to hurt you, but they don't get to be blamed as a hurtful person. It's kind of really weird and screwed up. I know. I'm not making this up. You all know that you've seen this, right? And so give me a right in the comments if you have definitely seen this before so far. All right. Next one, number 3, is changing what you're trying to hold them accountable for. So, you're saying that they were supposed to do the books at the office or something like that. They'll say, oh, but look what I've done. I did all of this stuff. And so they're like moving the target so that they're no longer talking about what they were actually supposed to do. I actually had this with somebody who was supposed to do some work for me, like an outside vendor, and they were supposed to help me accomplish a certain task. And when I was trying to hold them accountable for it, they just started telling me about the other benefits that I received from, not even from them, but like people that they introduced me to. And so therefore, I shouldn't look at the fact that they shouldn't be held accountable for what they were supposed to be doing. I know, really messed up. So the next one is I never did that or said that. You're imagining things. So something that they did or something that they said, they will say that you are imagining. Okay, number 5 is you're way too emotional. So now they're going to take issue with how you're saying it, that you're emotional, you're upset. I don't like your tone. I don't like the way you said that. You are shouting at me. And now you're just talking about that. And again, it's gaslighting to not have to take responsibility. It's about you. It's you're upset, you're emotional, you're shouting. Even if you're not shouting, even if you're like talking like this, you're shouting at them. And so now you're the one who's the problem. So, why they use gaslighting is it's a way to destabilize you, get control over you, and, make you think that you're crazy. And so that you don't see who they really are. You start to question your own mind. You're seriously traumatized, and sometimes, getting over that can be as bad as being deprogrammed if you were in a religious cult or something like that. You have to really reprogram your brain. You have to really change your neuronal patterns. I was actually talking to a client yesterday, and she was saying that she actually went to see Joe Dispenza speak like 5 times in a whole year because of having to reprogram her brain and reprogram her neuronal patterns and all that. And so that's the kind of thing that they do and why they do it. And especially when you're negotiating with them, you want to make sure that you start to see it, because then it will be much easier for you to realize, oh, that's off. I know my tone wasn't bad. I know we didn't discuss that. I know I never agreed to that. And it will give you so much more power when you are negotiating with them. All right. So the next one is you're just insecure, or maybe you're just jealous, you're making too much of things. This is especially if you're in a personal relationship and you're trying to call them out on their behavior, or you catch them, doing something that they shouldn't be. They'll just try to make it seem like you're the one who's, crazy, insecure, jealous, making too much of things or whatever. The next one, number 7, is you're just crazy, or it's your fault. So, in other words, if they ended up doing something that they shouldn't have, maybe they cheated on you or something like that, it becomes your fault because you didn't give them enough sex, or something like that. I do have a whole video, by the way, on narcissism and sex and how narcissists do use sex to control you. It's really an extension of how they behave in the rest of their lives and in their world and in their relationships. But it can be especially hurtful and demoralizing. So if you want to check that out, you definitely can. And the last one is that never happened. So, things that happened that happened, and you even have proof that they happened, they will literally, without blinking, say that never happened. I'm often reminded of the George Costanza, where, in Seinfeld, where he was like, it's not a lie if you believe it. And so sometimes I wonder if they actually believe their lies or not. But that is one thing that they do. The key is to understand that this is what they do. It is a way to try to shift your reality and question your own mind. And the key is in starting to look at it, observe it, see it for what it is, almost see it as like a third person, and recognize it when it happens, especially in negotiations, so that you can just hold steady, hold fast, and be able to know what is real and what isn't. And this definitely happens when they move goalposts and they change deals and all that sort of thing too. Today, we're going to go over something that you probably didn't know was gaslighting. You hear about gaslighting all the time. I mean, these narcissists, they drive you absolutely insane, but they are so stealth. They're so sneaky, and they're constantly figuring out new ways to drive you absolutely crazy. So if you're trying to communicate with them, you're trying to negotiate with them, they are super good at figuring out new ways of confusing you. And gaslighting is one of those really stealthy ways that all narcissists use. And by the way, if you are trying to negotiate with a narcissist, you're trying to communicate with a narcissist, I have a freebie for you. It's my free 15-page ebook go to crushmydeal.com, grab it. I've had entire negotiations be won on just this. What they're trying to do is destabilize you. And that's why I created this free e-booklet. Go to crushmydeal.com and grab it. So what they're trying to do is destabilize you, confuse you, and they use gaslighting as a way to do that. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you 8 things that you probably didn't even realize was gaslighting. Okay. So number 1 is making you always feel like you're wrong. You're wrong in this and you're always wrong in that. And just like these little teeny cuts constantly, these little put downs. No, that's not how it goes, or this isn't right, or just little teeny ways in making you feel like the way you're thinking is wrong. Subtly, they don't even have to say you're wrong. They can just correct you and go behind you and correct you. That is a form of gaslighting. It's a form of destabilizing you. It's a form of confusing you. It's a form of making you feel like you're the crazy one, that there's something wrong with you. And so that is a form of gaslighting. And that's number 1. The next one is saying anything that is designed to make you question your brain or doubt your memory or your sanity. And this can happen in so many different ways. We had that conversation, don't you remember? And the conversation didn't go exactly like that. Sometimes they choose pieces of conversations and you say, no, that's not how it went exactly. You had the conversation about something like that, and they add in parts. Or sometimes it's, no, we didn't have that conversation at all. We agreed that I could go away that weekend and you were fine with it. And that conversation never took place at all, and totally question your reality. Or during that argument, you accused me of this, and that you never said those words at all. And they say it so many times sometimes that you start to wonder, like, maybe I did say that. Where anything designed to make you doubt your memory, your sanity, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's you're looking at text messages that look suggestive, and they'll say things like you're paranoid, you're delusional, you're reading too much into it. Anything that is designed to make you doubt your sanity, make you doubt that what you're looking at is what you're looking at, or what your memory is what your memory is, or what you're hearing is what you're hearing. Anything like that is gaslighting. Number 3, blaming you for their bad moods or behavior. You're the reason why I'm angry. You're the reason why I'm upset. You're the reason why I am behaving the way that I am. They are responsible for their moods. They are responsible for their anger. They are responsible for their own emotional regulation, just the same, by the way, as you are for yours. People are responsible for their own moods and their own regulation, and nobody should be blaming anybody else for their own moods and their own emotional behavior or regulation. You can't make me feel anything, technically. I mean, I know we say that all the time, but in reality, we have a choice on how we respond. That's why we say respond, don't react. That's why we say that. Blaming you for their bad moods or their behavior is gaslighting, and it's unacceptable. So that's not okay. Number 4, withholding information from you on purpose. That is not okay. And then, turning around and saying, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't know this, you should have known this, that sort of thing. And then that's even worse, that they'll do that, not telling you certain things. withholding information from you. That's gaslighting. If it's a relationship, especially if it's supposed to be a romantic relationship, a business partnership, and they are not, and then they'll turn around, by the way, and say, you're the one who's not trustworthy. Think about that. They'll project onto you that you're not trustworthy. And then they're the ones not giving you information. They do that all the time. And the next one is actually closely related. They'll make decisions without consulting you. They'll be out there making decisions without consulting you, doing things without consulting you, living a life without consulting you, and then turn around and accuse you of being the one who's not trustworthy and making you feel like you're the one who's in the wrong. And when you get upset about it, blaming everybody for the fact that you are upset and the fact that there's a problem in the relationship, telling everybody how horrible you are because the relationship is so bad. That's another form of gaslighting, by the way. Next one, trivializing your concerns and your feelings. All of these things will end up playing into each other, by the way, because now they've withheld information, blaming you for your bad moods, blah, blah, blah. And you bring up these concerns, they will trivialize your concerns and your feelings. You're making too much of this, you're blowing things out of proportion. See how that goes? They went out, they bought a new car, they didn't bring you into that decision. They didn't consult you. They trivialize your concerns, your feelings about it, make you feel like you're in the wrong. One thing feeds into another. It's all gaslighting. It's one big, huge thing of gaslighting. Number 7, calling you names and other forms of verbal abuse. And, closely related to this one, by the way, is making fun of you and then saying that it's a joke. Oh, you have such a big butt. Ha, 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 ha. Oh my gosh, can't you take a joke? You're so sensitive. Can't believe how sensitive you're. So oversensitive. Can't you take a joke? Calling you names. That's all verbal abuse. And that's all gaslighting, because then you're over there feeling like there's something wrong with you because you can't take a joke. Maybe you are oversensitive. And then you'll even tell your friends, I think I'm just oversensitive. That is a joke that we have between us. You'll even defend it to your friends sometimes. Don't do that. Don't trivialize your own concerns to your friends. If it's a red flag and if it doesn't feel good to you, then it's not good. Listen to your gut on this. It's wrong. It's so wrong. I want you to put that in the comments right now. So wrong. It is so wrong. And it is so not okay. If it feels bad in your gut, then you know that it's not good. Listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. Listen to your soul. Your soul knows. Your soul always knows. Your soul is whispering to you. Your soul is telling you something. Your soul is going, hey, this is not okay. And that soul is going to speak louder and louder and louder to you until it says, no, because your soul will survive. And finally, the last one is when you finally are ready to leave, then they'll do things like threaten self-harm, threaten to hurt you, threaten to hurt themselves, play on guilt, maybe try to make you feel guilty if you're going to leave. All of that threatening stuff, that's gaslighting too, because a lot of times they're probably not even going to go through with it, or if they do, it's terrorist tactics, which is why I have my slay methodology, by the way. You're going to ethically manipulate the manipulator. That's how you get out. Slay the narcissist. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. That's what works. That's how you squeeze them and ultimately incentivize them to get what you want.